So our first director that we have coming to speak to you is Nigel, who is from Stores Productivity, and he's going to talk to you about what the pros and cons are of a direct career path.
Yeah. Okay. Leave my slide off a minute. I'm not going to use that. Can you all hear me? If I stand here, yeah, because I'm rubbish with microphones. They always kind of make funny noises and stuff like that. So yeah, as just said, I've been asked to talk about the pros and cons of a direct career path, and I have to admit, I kind of got that question a couple of weeks ago, and it got me thinking, because I didn't really understand what a direct career path was at that point. In fact, it felt like a bit of an oxymoron, because career implies that I'm careering from one thing to another, and then, being direct kind of indicates that I'm going straight to my point of destination. So one thing doesn't really match the other. But I kind of get what you're talking about in terms of pros and cons of a direct career path. So I'm going to describe my career in just a few minutes. So those of you who know me well will see where I've, been a bit liberal with the truth, and those of you who don't know me well can talk to your mates later. So I joined Tesco in 1997 as a graduate. And at that point in time, you all had to work for 2 years in a shop. So I joined the shop, and it was a fabulous time. I loved my time in stores. I spent 2 years in there doing all the management roles, and it was absolutely brilliant. The store manager got to know me quite well, and learned that I was quite good at maths. I studied environmental science at university, so God knows why I was good at maths. But compared to everyone else, I was good at maths. And he got me to look at all these KPIs, and ultimately he got me to write up his performance report for him at the end of the year. Which is brilliant, because I got a chance to show my skill at maths and stats and making stuff up. And he thought that was a brilliant idea. He thought I was absolutely fantastic. So he nominated me for a job in the office because of such a fantastic job I'd done, which was working in the projects team, looking at implementing the store steering wheel, hence all the kind of KPIs and stuff like that, which I really enjoyed as well. I mean, head office for me was absolutely amazing. We all had our own little cubicle at the time, little desk, and it was far more palatial than it is now, but it was fantastic. I never thought I'd ever work anywhere else than in a shop. So coming to Tesco head office was absolutely fantastic. Had a whale of a time. I accidentally became a business analyst, I think, effectively, because I implemented the store steering wheel and set all the budgets and all stuff like that. I learned how to program on Lotus 123. Anyone know what Lotus 123 is?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, showing your age. Pre-runner to Excel, really, which was great. And then my boss at the time, who was the equivalent of work level 3, we didn't have work levels back then in the day, kind of went on and did something else, and he was running a projects team and looking at implementing a checkout scheduler as a project, and he asked me to go and work with him, which was great. It was 5 desks down in the office. It was brilliant, great move. I had a window seat then, so I moved 5 metres down, 5 desks down, and I started work on checkout scheduler, and I fell in love with project management. And at that point in time, I kind of thought to myself, you know what, I want to be the best project manager I can be. Just like I'd been the best business analyst I could be, I wanted to be the best project manager I could be. And I absolutely fell in love with project management. In fact, to this day, I'd say that it was one of my best jobs. All the different projects I got involved in over a 7-year period, from crawling around underneath the checkout, understanding the earthing requirements of supermarket checkouts, to understanding how a barcode scanner works, to setting the service strategy in the time on sort of one in front and that kind of stuff. It was from the real extreme detail up to the kind of really broad topics that you get involved in as a project manager. So I fell in love with being a project manager, and I did as good a job as I could at that point. Then my boss moved on, and he left, and we got left with no manager. I just carried on and became the natural go-to person within that team. And 3 months later, I got called into the office, into the director's office, and he said to me, it was a tiller. Does anyone know a tiller?
Mm-hmm.
I bumped into a tiller. The tiller said to me, it was a bit colourful language, but I won't go down that route. He said to me, what the is this? And handed me something across the table. And it was an email from my team, and I'll always remember it. It's a defining point in my career, really. And it was basically an email from 3 people in my team that said, it was like 3 pages long, this document. The upshot of it was, Nigel's doing a great job leading us. Please promote him. I thought, and he was saying, well, how much did you have to pay him to set him up for this? So, and I think because of my reaction at the time, I was so humbled that I thought, it was really clear that it wasn't a set-up job at all. It was just really honest. So by doing a good job at project management, I kind of stumbled into being a work level 3 senior manager. And I won't go on. You kind of get in the theme, yeah, the kind of philosophy I've applied to my career and it being a direct career path. So, you know, when I think about my career, I was going to say something quite profound at that point, but I can't remember what it is now. But I think it's lost the time now. Anyway, so I moved from work level 1 through to work level 4 within, you know, going from a shop and then into the office. And to be quite honest, you know, my office now, for those of you who know where it is, that's about 10 metres away from where I used to sit as a project manager, and about 5 metres away from where I used to sit as a program manager. But I've done such a varied amount of work during that time, and I've enjoyed every single moment of it. You know, I'd never applied for a job in Tesco, never had to, because I've always really enjoyed what I'm doing. I've done a fantastic job at it. Now I was, so I'm probably running out of time. I was reading a story to my daughter last night, and I was thinking about what I was going to say today, because, you know, having never applied for a job or never managed my career, it was going to be quite tough talking to you about how I might have done that. And I was reading Winnie the Pooh to my daughter. She's only 4, and one section of it really came to mind. I'm just going to read it to you now. I'm going to put the slide up. Yeah, there we go. So, "Morning, Pooh," said Piglet at last. "What's the first thing you say to yourself in the morning?" "What's for breakfast?" said Pooh. "What do you say, Piglet?" "I say, I wonder what's going to happen that's exciting today," said Piglet. And Pooh thought. He nodded thoughtfully. And he said, "Isn't that the same thing?" Now, I've read that a few times to some people in my team today, and they're kind of, "Well, what planet are you on?" You know, how has that got anything to do with my career whatsoever? But I think there's lots of things you can read into this. I mean, a lot of Winnie the Pooh's quite thoughtful, isn't it? But I kind of think, well, it kind of shows the general calibre of directors in the office. But you know, Pooh. Let's think about Pooh. He's just getting up every morning, and he's really excited about breakfast because it's the first thing that's happening, and he's, you know, he doesn't mind. He doesn't care about lunch. He doesn't care about dinner. He's not worried about heffalumps. Remember heffalumps? Yeah, remember heffalumps? He's not worried about heffalumps. He just worries about breakfast. And you know something? As a result of just worrying about breakfast, he probably has the best breakfast out of all his friends. And do you know something else? If Christopher Robin wanted someone to look after breakfasts and manage breakfasts, I reckon it'd be Pooh, rather than anyone else. Now, Piglet. Let's think about Piglet. Piglet's waking up every day and he's kind of thinking, I want something exciting to happen. And like, one day he meets a heffalump. A heffalump isn't actually a heffalump, is it? It's Winnie the Pooh. But anyway, he wants to meet a heffalump. But what's the chances of Piglet being satisfied at the end of the day? What's the chances of Piglet thinking at the end of the day, you know what, that's been a brilliant day, I've done something really exciting today. And that's the overall point of it. I mean, you can read a lot into that. I mean, I've heard so many different thoughts about what that could mean in terms of careers today, but that was my take on it. And that's the take on it that kind of relates to my philosophy, which isn't to plan my career. It wasn't to actually have set out with a plan. And there you go, that's what I did. But I think there's a big sort of health warning on that. Well, don't try this at home kind of thing, because to take that philosophy, you really have to be satisfied with. So when you've heard about me talk about my jobs, I was really happy in the shop, I was really happy as a project manager, I loved my work level 3 job, and equally I think I've got the best job in the world now, and I would have been happy at any point in that career. And you really have to believe that to take this philosophy and to approach the kind of direct career path as you described it. Okay? Helpful? Don't know, maybe.
All of you in the community have been busy posting your questions on Yammer, so I'm just going to read a couple of them out just for Nigel to answer. So the first one is from James Fletcher, which is, what piece of advice did you not take but wish you had?
Hang on, I've got notes on this, not to give away the fact that you you've already told me which. That's not the question I had. Anyway, what piece of advice?
What piece of advice did you not take that you wish you had?
What piece of advice did I not take that I wish I had? With respect to my career, I'm going to have to think about that.
Okay,
Yeah, I can't think of anything to add. What's my second one?
You have to tell me if I got these wrong. How did you go about building your own personal brand, or did it come naturally? From Zoe?
I didn't really build my own personal brand. I was just really relaxed about who I am. And I think if you're really authentic and just be yourself. You know, I'm an actual introvert. I am absolutely an introvert at heart. I hate speaking. I hate. You know, I'd rather sit on my own in my office thinking about stuff than do anything. If someone presents me with a problem, I'd rather sit there and think about it rather than pick up the phone and talk to other people about it. And in that respect, I have had to manage my brand to a certain extent, because being an introvert has lots of great benefits. I think you can be quite independent. I think you always have an opinion of your own. You're quite thoughtful, you know, reflective. But also there's lots of disadvantages because people don't necessarily get to see who you are. So one of the things I really have had to do to manage my brand is try and be a bit more outgoing than I would naturally be, and that's been really difficult for me. It's constantly been on my PDP, constantly for the last 15 years, and I'm still working on it now. So that's probably the biggest thing I have to do. I'll think about the other one. I'll come back at the end.
Well, Nigel.